Morning, everyone. Am I audible? Morning, everyone. Great. Let me start with a quick check in the room. It's a packed house. How many of you are students and from academics? Okay, guys, either the hands goes up like this or it stays like this, nothing like this, okay? Okay, and how many of you are from analytics industry? Wonderful. Wonderful. There is a context to which I'll build, and Alka, I'll take some time. First of all, thanks so much, Alka, for a kind introduction. It's wonderful to have this forum, and Mr. Ghosh built the whole premises and the genesis in terms of what UPES stands for. And I still recall the first interactions we had with Alka, Vikas, and Deborah coming to my office, and they were of this opinion that we should hold full-day business analytics conclave, and I said, wonderful. But in my mind, it was always running, look, we never had that kind of I never recall an incident where any university came up and said that they would like to host a complete full-day session on business analytics. So it was great kind of a thing, and I must say, I mean, the kind of diligence, the kind of professionalism, and the kind of I would say support I've seen from the entire group, it's been very, very encouraging. So a full round of applause for Alka, Deborah, and Vikas, and the UPS team. And I must say, and this goes back to the point what Alka mentioned today morning to me, that look, there is a large analytics set of fraternity, but whenever she and her team approached most of them, they were so humble. Yes, they are humble, Alka, but they're also very sharp and intuitive with their minds, and that mind always work best when they are in the meetings in front of the customers or they are discussing their performance appraisals. So that's a bit of, I would say, kind of just a prelude, but also would like to thank all my analytics industry colleagues and friends, and without their support, this wouldn't have been possible, because as we say, it's a very small fraternity. We meet every month, and most of the time we talk about that, okay, what's there in terms of the open opportunities in analytics and whether we can trade back and kind of source some profiles, but it's all about what's happening in terms of the topicalness of the industry, what's in vogue and what's coming. So that's the basis through which the team at UPS and our whole team work together. Rise of algorithm economy, analytics for competitive advantage. We wanted to keep the theme very, very progressive and a bit of forward-looking. And the reason is simple. While Alka mentioned initially in the earlier part of her narrative that it's haunting. Let me tell you, analytics is not for the faint-hearted. It's haunting because if the algorithm goes wrong, you get Mr. Trump to the power. And it's definitely haunting, pun intended. I hope we are not getting quoted in the media on this. But look at this phenomena called analytics. Last week, NASSCOM had their India Leadership Forum. Mr. Mukesh Ambani was the keynote speaker. And the first thing he addresses to the group is, data is the new oil. Intelligence is the new petroleum. I don't know what it meant, but the next day, his stock went up by 10%. Same forum, IBM CEO mentioned about cognitive capabilities. Just recently, this week, Mr. Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, came in and mentioned about artificial intelligence. And this is what's happening, where the leaders, the industry veterans and the stalwarts are talking about nothing but analytics and data sciences. And true to the point what Alka mentioned, let me give you some facts about this industry. Though it's very fragmented, very unstructured, but the best part is it's growing at a very whopping pace of an industry size which has catapulted into a league which is about $120 billion. 11% is the growth rate as of now, but Alka, if I take the figures, for the next 3 years is projected to be close to about 16% on a CAGR basis, which means this industry will be close to about $175 billion by 2020. It employs in India close to about 350,000 professionals, And if some of you are interested, there are 30,000 open analytics and data sciences positions open in India. And it's a thumb rule, what we say, for every analytics professional we need to hire, we reject 7 others. So this is the dichotomy we're talking about this industry. It's upstream, it's influencing boardroom discussions. Leaders are talking about this, but the talent is somewhere which is missing. And that's where it's great of UPES to kind of look at these initiatives in terms of Conclave, the Industry Academic Alliance partnership, talking about the courses with the partnership they have, data sciences, analytics, it's phenomenal. And that's where I think the more synergistic, symbiotic, and the kind of more seamless alliance we have with the academics, this industry is bound to grow. Now, switching back and coming back to the mainstream of the context today, there are 2 aspects which you will listen in the whole, I would say, the morning and the second half, and it's intended to keep the group very, very engrossing in terms of a bit of provocative discussions in terms of the industry, where it's leading, how progressive it is, and what it means in terms of the next level of analytics and data sciences. And secondly, it will also give you perspective about the genres, what are being seen in analytics today. And I'll take a cue out here running through this particular deck. Now, if we talk about rise of algorithm economy, analytics for competitive advantage, look, this industry, analytics per se, has been in existence for the last 15 years. But the real lift we have seen in the last decade or so, because most of you can recall who's been part of this industry, there was just a point of need analytics, which was supposed to be done. And people said, okay, let's do it. Go back to early 2000. What was just MIS reporting got morphed into ERP, where the whole cross-functional aspects of reporting, that whole transparency of what we say MIS came into the picture. From ERP, it got delved into more sophisticated, what we say, the different tools of BI, DW, more about data extraction, more about data massaging. Then the whole facet changed, particularly in the last 6-7 years, where we talked about the genres of analytics: descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, prescriptive. Each of these genre change came with more industries adopting analytics and making it part of the mainstream in terms of decision making. And today, and going forward the next 3 years, there is a very heavy prediction, and some of that is being exercised today in the whole parlance of how industry is moving, which is algorithms will decide the decision making in the boardrooms. So it's not only just operational and tactical, it's more about strategic nature of algorithms, how they would influence the whole boardroom discussions. I hope at some level, even Tata Sons would have taken algorithms into the picture, the result would have been different. Just a quick, I would say, snapshot if we take, this is something what we say the decade-old aspect about MIS reporting and how the whole industry kind of changed. Now this is where, while we take the present context, everyone knows about big data. But there is also a change about, while the data has been coming from various sources, various channels, who is looking at the data to be more kind of insightful, more in terms of intelligence and recommendations. And this term, big data, changed the whole, what I say, the proliferation of analytics, where everyone started saying, look, I have data, I need something to kind of give me more insights. It's again in the customer parlance we use that usual, the client conversations start like this: look, I'm data rich, information poor, insight starved. Data rich, information poor, insight starved, can you help solve my problem? This is where analytics comes into the picture. And that's where the changing nature of what we say decision making through using analytics has given a different paradigm shift to this industry. This is what we say was the prelude in terms of what is happening while we are talking 60 seconds, the kind of uploads, information sharing, the deluge of data is compelling organization to look at what decisions they can make. And this is where, if we take this analogy from what we say hindsight to foresight, in the whole parlance, if there is a car dashboard, if you see that, how the whole change of analytics happened from the hindsight to the foresight, where foresight is more about predicting and using analytics to kind of say, can I influence now decision making within my enterprise? It could be marketing related, it could be HR, it could be finance, or it could be any functional stream we are talking about. Now this is where the genre change, what I said about, started happening in analytics. And what you see on the top, while prescriptive is the core layer, which is the upmost upstream layer, the kind of industries, oil and gas, manufacturing, transportation, petroleum, they started adopting analytics in a big way, which also means while there is a multi-dimensional kind of aspect attached to analytics, there is a very, very high demand for analytics across industry. Now this is where, if we take a reflection of consumption of analytics by industry, first of all look, and this is what we say in not only I would say lighter vein, but a serious vein, serious mode, that no one actually can master analytics. We are all in a learning mode. No one is a kind of a guru in analytics, we might claim, but we are all learning. Because such is the nature of analytics. If we stack together the overall capabilities, service offerings, as we call in analytics, it will size up to close to about 3,000 odd service offerings. Right from customer acquisition analytics to churn, to mitigation, to risk, compliance, fraud, HR analytics. The capabilities are very, very vast. When you have so much of vastness, the inch-wide, mile-deep approach doesn't work. And that's where the demand for analytics in terms of talent, in terms of adoption, in terms of how it's being serviced today by the enterprises and service providers is changing very, very rapidly. Now this is where, if we take Tom Davenport, and most of you would have heard him, he predicted close to a couple of years back, which is coming out true, that if we take an element of traditional analytics, which is what used to exist about a decade back, and some of that still exists because organizations have their maturity curve, and if you try to dovetail that with big data, which has become a big, I would say, buzzword in the last 4 or 5 years, what's seemingly coming in the next 2-3 years will be very, very amazing. A substantial investment will go into making algorithms. Economies, enterprises will talk about nothing but how algorithms are producing intelligence, recommendations, and decision making. And that's where the buzzword of algorithm economy has come very, very openly. This has been quoted by Gartner, Forrester has acknowledged, and most of the organizations who are very fast in adopting analytics are embracing nothing but what we say algorithm economy. I'll discuss in the subsequent slide that what it means under algorithm economy and what it means in terms of not only adoption, but for us as individuals. Now, this is where there is a paradigm shift which is happening, what's compelling most of the organization, and I'm sure each one of us are cued in terms of the topical recent developments that every organization is trying to go digital. Now, what's digital is so esoteric and I would say dubious. If I take definitions in this room, everyone would have a different definition. For some of us, it could be as vague as wearing a Casio digital watch. So what's not, if we talk about digital? I think it's a perspective. Look at some of these scenarios. Customers, reimagining the whole customer experience is the basis of going digital. Then we are talking about also how organizations are evolving in terms of the competition, which is coming from different, I would say, segments today. There's something called offline, there's something on online, and both has to coexist. To top it all, we are talking about speed, agility, transformation, and how exactly one can make a difference by being topical. Now this is where, for some of us who would like to really kind of paraphrase what's digital, It's based on three elements and three aspects of dimensions where most of the organizations are spending money, time, and efforts. One, we're talking about the whole set of reimagining the customer experience. Customers are the basis of the existence of the enterprises. Anything which touches customers in terms of acquisition, in terms of churn, in terms of elongating their life cycle, has to have an influence of digital. Second piece which is important, we are talking about new product and services getting innovated. There has never been a surfeit of so much of disruption where the products are being tweaked to cater to the new set of customers, be it millennial or any set of customers. The third piece which is important, which is core to any business, strategic operational elements of businesses are getting redefined by digital. Why I took digital? It's all because the underpinning of the digital is nothing but analytics and data sciences. For reimagining your customer experience, you need data. For data, you need analytics. If you have to transform your businesses, make it more disruptive and more transformative, you need analytics. And so for changing your strategic and business model. Now, if we use the same term, and I'll just extend to what I mentioned in the previous slide, it's all about what we say, what Gartner has said, which is nexus of forces, which is how amalgamation of social, mobile, analytics, cloud, and IoT today is influencing organization to kind of go digital. This is, again, a very, very interesting paradigm. Now, think back how industry used to operate 5 years back. Did you ever hear terms like wearables, intelligent machines, chatbots, EHR records getting digitized, fintech, blockchain? And list goes on. For some of you who've been skeptics and cynics of this industry, let me tell you, it's bound to happen where all of these buzzwords are getting translated into monetization models for the enterprises. So it's a matter of time where all these industries will get so much influence with so much of disruption happening that each of these industries will have a new set of shift in terms of strategy, how they want to operate. And under the digital revolution, analytics, data science will create a niche of their own. Now, if I just summarize in terms of the topical key trends of data science and analytics, I don't want to spend much time because most of them have been talked about. I think, one, this algorithm economy will be a key factor in terms of driving decision making. Second, as we say, look, every industry goes through some bit of advancement. In analytics, we call sophistication. Data sciences, the use of machine learning, artificial intelligence, cognitive capabilities, nothing but sophistication in analytics. Now, to reach to that maturity, organizations are investing. For the students, academics, and even for us, for the sake of materiality, we say, if the population of analytics is not transforming and upgrading themselves to these new technologies in analytics, will be all at a very, very different level, which will be just downstream. Now, this is where I start the last piece of what we say, which is the basis of this conclave, which is algorithm economy. Data is inherently dumb. While we talk about data, we talk about aggregation, we talk about massaging, we talk about the whole accumulation of data assuming different dimensions. Unless it's modulated in the form of an algorithm, and unless the algorithm produces the right incisive set of insights, intelligence, and recommendation, it's just a futile exercise. And that's where what we say is becoming true. Algorithms are becoming the secret sauce for the organizations. And there is a term which is used by management guru Ram Charan that eventually organizations will become nothing but math houses. And how is this getting possible? I'll give you some of the example. And this is all replete with so much happening in, I would say, more from a digital side. Look at Uber, Netflix, Pandora, Google, Facebook. The entire genesis of their businesses is based on algorithm. And we have seen in some of the scenarios how a change in maybe one of the variable or assumptions of the algorithms have spelled death kneels for these organizations, maybe in terms of a dip in terms of their stock prices, or dip in terms of the customer experience, or maybe they don't exist if the algorithms goes wrong. And the list is humongous when we talk about this thing. And this is where we say that why it's happening, it's all because of the advancement of mathematical knowledge. I mean, so much of IP is getting generated, so much of kind of, let's say, discussions are happening about algorithms. We are talking about a scenario where machine learning, artificial intelligence, cognitive capability will become definitely mainstream. If you take the recent report from the Gartner, AI, machine learning, and cognitive capability per se will have different industries of their own, which means they'll be measured on different industry size. Which also spells, if you see in the next 3 years, look at the demand opportunities it will open, not only for the organizations, but even for the aspiring students or the professionals who are either entering into analytics or are aspiring to get from one genre of technology or BPO to analytics. And that journey for us, as part of custodians, as part of the industry fraternity, is important to understand that at the end of the day, this is one industry which has only survived and evolved because if one is passionate, it will really go well in terms of how it gets demonstrated. Now, just summing up it's all about in terms of algorithm economy. We're talking about in a scenario which is as short as or a brief as next 3 years, there'll be millions of algorithms all around a marketplace getting traded, maybe in form of an exchange. You can buy or sell algorithms, or maybe it will have a real time, what we say, a buy or sell price. It's akin to what we have the scripts today, NASDAQ or even NSE, BSE. I mean, there is something even on the telecom side where they have an exchange of their own. But this is seemingly a very, very imminent reality that algorithms will be traded very soon. So what it will spell in terms of the marketplace? Algorithms will be proprietary, IP driven, with the source code, each having a very unique software code, which is of course the essence of that algorithm, each catering to a specific business challenge of an enterprise or overall as an industry, or something which it will cater to in terms of the next generation of a business problem. But that algorithm will prove out to be IP-driven secret sauce for that organization. In conjunction, analytics startups will evolve where the first usage of those algorithms will be treated as their uniqueness or as a niche in terms of what they can cater to the larger market. And then we are talking about a sophistication in analytics which will happen, that how algorithms are strong and robust enough to produce the desired insights, intelligence, and recommendations. And that's where, if we talk about the change in paradigm in conjunction with digital, will start happening. So look, it's all intertwined and interconnected. If you talk about digital, it cannot survive without analytics. And if you talk about analytics, the definition of analytics in the next 3 years will be nothing but more sophistication, which will give rise to what we say algorithm economy. And this is where, to the point where we say the innovation index, the whole innate ability for the organizations to transform will change, because algorithms will start defining the root cause of what's happening and what's not happening in terms of decision making. A quick glance in terms of how it's getting possible. If you see on the left side versus the right and on the top, on the left side you have the business challenges. You take any business challenge, the customer acquisition piece, the risk, the reporting, the frameworks around not knowing how your HR or finance are utilizing analytics today or even the data. On the right side would be enablers. You can use tools, open source or let's say proprietary tools in analytics or data science. And on the top would be the insights, recommendations, and the intelligence what algorithms will produce. Our customer insight will delve in terms of an algorithm, how robust is that algorithm in terms of fetching more customers. A market intelligence algorithm will decide in a specific geography or demographic how that algorithm will fetch that this is where customer or rather enterprise needs to target as part of the enterprise, let's say, campaigns and all. Now, this is where we say that, look, at some level, we are talking about a very esoteric but a possible Mr. Algorithm sitting in the boardrooms, deciding the future and the fate of the organization, and interfacing with many of the other CXOs in the boardroom and saying, look, I am out here as a part of the board member because I command a respect through the data, the deductions, insights, intelligence, and recommendations I carry. Because that seemingly today has become the backbone of the organization, that how seemingly and how seamless they are using algorithms to the best of their advantage. And just to sum it up, when we say what it means in terms of an algorithm economy, what are the key win themes, it's just about, first, we are talking about this whole proliferation of democratization of analytics. It's all there. It's very, very pervasive over there. Second, it's already started happening where organizations are embedding analytics as part of their client operating models or within their operating, I would say, structure. Third is everyone wants to ride the data science wave, which is not but the buzzword that, look, there is a reality, what we call data scientists. They do exist. It's a different breed, but that breed is producing amazing results. And this is where, if we talk about a bit futuristic, forward-looking, but as topical as next 3 years, today we are at a cusp where we are talking about analytics embedded into the processes. Come to 2020, with so much of accentuation we will see in terms of customer experience, with so much of data deluge and digital revolution which will happen, device, language will become key components where processes will have inbuilt algorithms. That would be a sea change where those algorithms will decide the strategic, tactical, operational elements of running an organization. And this is where we say that at some level, it's a choice whether we want to kind of see it coming or we get hit and then decide what needs to be done. That's all I had. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Samir.